Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to this session. I'm going to let Danielle do the whole thing because, frankly, this is her project. So, Danielle.
So welcome to our webinar. This is going to be a series of 4 that we're going to be doing. And we're pretty excited about these because one of the biggest suggestions for help, requests for help that I get on the emails is help with staff. That has to do with morale building, team building, and just mostly just making sure everybody's getting along and going along with the policies and doing that happily. So one thing that does interrupt with that is staff's different perceptions on things. So these are designed to help you and your staff understand that there are different ways of looking things and doing things that can complement everybody, and we can all continue to get along. So watch these videos. At the end of the videos, there will be a test that will be emailed to you. I would recommend that you forward that to all your team that's participating in this and let them fill out the test, comment, ask questions, whatever you'd like on those tests, and send them back to me immediately. I will be looking over all these on Fridays, and I will be getting back to you on Fridays with these. I would love to hear any questions that you have, any thoughts that you have, because the whole purpose of this is to get you to open up and see different sides, see different ways of handling things and come up with solutions so that your team can work together better. And of course, just hit those goals and everybody just have a better time in the practice working together. So please email those back tonight. I will respond to those tomorrow, and we can get through these 4 webinars and see some improvements.
These are exact programs that we've done with our consulting clients and, of course, with our staff. They work. Yes. They'll seem a little elementary to you. Use them anyway. The fundamentals really make a big difference. So on with the video. You'll be receiving the link for the questionnaire at 8:30 Eastern, so half past the hour wherever you are.
So this next video that I would like for you to share with your team is on a course called How to Get Along with Others. So what this is about is how to connect with people, how to build healthy relationships with your team, and how to build healthy relationships with your patients. So we all have those people that we've seen or work with that are the people whisperers, people that can connect and that people feel good around, and the people in your office that can talk to patients and they don't get upset, they don't get angry, or someone who just really has that connection. It comes from this course, which is called Get Along with Others, because what you're doing is you are becoming somebody that can speak to a patient about either something bad, something good, some potential things that could happen, and they happily say, okay, yeah, I understand. So how do we get that connection to occur? How do you get your staff to get along with all the other staff? How do you get your staff to get along with the high maintenance patients? How do you prevent all the quarrels and arguments and fighting? When I hire someone for the first time, the very first thing I cover is I have a lot of people in this office. I have 20 different staff members in this office, and all but 3 of them are female. So with that being said, I have a lot of different personalities here. And the one thing that I do insist is that we understand and we appreciate all those different personalities, and that we don't expect any of them to change for you, for me, that we learn how to work with those different personalities. So we all want to be right. We all have passion and our beliefs and our opinions, but it is very important to learn and master allowing someone to be what he or she is. This lecture is intended for us to understand that we cannot change people. We can't change their views, we can't change their beliefs, we can't change their opinions, and we can't change their attitudes. We can only change how we react or respond to these people. And that can result in a healthy relationship and healthy communication with them. Now, remember what I said with that. You cannot change people. You can only change how you react to that person. So if you have a teammate that is always just says things in a certain way that's very offensive, or talks in a way that you don't particularly like, or you don't really feel comfortable with, what you have to do is, yes, there's those situations where someone needs to be corrected, but you have to look at the entire picture. So I have a particular team member here that doesn't really, she doesn't fit in with all the other girls. Now, we all get along and we all have fun, but she doesn't particularly fit in with all the other girls. She's different. Now, what you also have to understand is this girl has a very high stat in her job. She does her job very well. She's never on her phone. She's never even really eating snacks, water breaks. She comes in and she works and she does her job, and she does it to the T, and she does it very, very, very well. Now, she's not mean or nasty, doesn't talk that way, but she's very businesslike. So a lot of the girls don't really feel like they understand her, because she doesn't joke and laugh and play around. She comes to work. So sometimes I'll hear them say something like, she said this or she said that, and the way she said it, and what I have to have them understand is, how can you respond to that, and how can you work with what she said and actually get her to understand you, versus arguing and fighting and not coming together, not agreeing on it. So the video that I'm going to show you that has to do with how to get along with others will do that. So how can you find a way to connect with that person by reacting, responding in the way where they say, great, okay, and you're not having it to where you're secretly or quietly kind of having that argument with each other. The key to letting a person the key to this is letting the person be who he or she is, allowing them to be that person. Don't try to change them, allowing them to be that person completely. And this can be done through the courtesy of really listening to what the person has to say, letting him know he or she has been heard, and letting them know that their point of view is being taken into consideration. So listening is the first part. So I'll use a patient, for example. A patient comes in, a patient is upset about their end product. They're upset about what they have. So the patient starts to complain. They're upset and they're going on and on and on. What do? You let them go on and on and on. You let them talk about all they have to say until they have nothing left to say. And then what do you say? You say, the very first thing you should say is, I got it. I understand. I heard everything that you have to say, because you want them to know that you heard it, that you understand it, and nothing was missed. Because if you don't acknowledge that, if you don't let them finish what they have to say, and you don't acknowledge that you've heard it, in their head, they're going to feel like you don't understand. You didn't hear what they have to say. So when you start talking, all they're going to be thinking about is what they're going to say next, because they don't feel like you understood them. So let them talk until they're done, and then let them know that you heard everything that they had to say. So in order to get that connection with teammates, in order to get that connection with patients, when you were watching this lecture that we are going to show you, that we shown at our staff meeting, remember that you cannot change how someone talks, their attitude. You can't change who they are. You can only change how you react and how you respond, and that will give you that relationship, that will give you that understanding, and that will give you the ability to communicate with that person where they understand you and you understand them.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how to get along with others. Some of you say, can I take off the mask? Is there anybody who objects to my taking off the mask? Would you object? You wouldn't object. In other words, if I took off the mask, you'd be embarrassed to object. Is that what you're telling me? So as a group, you're putting peer pressure on each other to allow me to take off the mask. That's very interesting. So thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. How to get along with others. Who took that course? There's been, yeah, okay. So, and I don't know, are we taking courses or?
We're not, I would love to.
but they don't have them available right now because we're going through what we're going through. Okay. So I'm the course giver. That's pretty good. So how to get along with others? It's a good course. It's a course that I'm going to give you a summary of it because we're only going to talk for a few minutes today. But how to get along with others has very much to do with what Danielle said, because we have disgruntled patients. We do. Sometimes we have disgruntled doctors and disgruntled everybody, and we ourselves are disgruntled. We can either accept the disgruntlement or we can get them out of disgruntlement, but you can't get them out of disgruntlement unless you have a tool to do that. And there are actually several tools to do that. We're going to talk about some of those tools today, okay? So let's talk first about the ARC triangle. And we'll look at that here. I know, Courtney, you didn't want me to go on this side, but I'm on this side anyway, so because when I look at the video and I'm over here, nobody can see what's going on. Okay, so there are three aspects of the ARC triangle. It's a triangle. This is weird doing it from this side. I don't know if I can get used to this. So A equals affinity. Wow, I can't do this. All right, the board has to go over here next time. Okay. A stands for affinity. What does affinity mean? The willingness to be close to each other might be a decent definition. How close do you want to get to somebody you don't like? How close do you want to get to somebody who you love? That's the measure of affinity, closeness. Okay? The next is reality. Okay, so that's the R part of it. Reality is how much does your viewpoint match somebody else's? Or how much do your observations match somebody else's? Okay? So if I decide that I want to eat a donut, and people say, do you go to Krispy Kreme? I say, yeah, I love Krispy Kreme. Oh yeah, those donuts with the gooey honey on top of them and they just melt in your mouth. I would imagine that some of you would share that reality with me, wouldn't you? And if you did share that reality with me, then we would have some affinity for each other because we have a shared reality. Oh yeah, gooey, I love it. Go back and forth. Ah, so neat. Now, how did we get there? And how we got there is from the C part of this. And the C stands for communication. So essentially, with the communication, we talked about Krispy Kreme donuts, so a delicious donut. All right, here it is right here. Here's my Krispy Kreme donut, okay, with the icing dripping off. And some of it coming right out of my tongue. I mean, it's so good, okay? A Krispy Kreme donut is there. You can taste it. You can feel it. Not how you feel a half an hour later. I'm talking about how you feel right at that time. It's really good. And as we look at that and we talk about Krispy Kreme, what happens? This triangle gets bigger because we talk more about it. We love it even more. We might talk about the other donuts that they have at Krispy Kreme. It just gets bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger and bigger. Until finally, I come to you and say, get back to work, you know. And then it all shrinks back down again. Oh, I got to do that. We can make this triangle work in that way. And now we're going to talk about Krispy Kreme donuts with everyone. But we are going to talk about things that they're interested in. And the more shared realities we have, the more the relationship grows. Okay, whether it's a doctor-patient relationship, whether it's a relationship among you, whether it's family relationships, whatever it is, if you have things in common, then it grows and grows and grows. Key element on how to get along with others, which is where we started with this. Now, so you'll memorize A, R, and C, okay? You all remember affinity, reality, communication. Got it? Because I've got to erase this, okay? I'm throwing something into this lecture which I wasn't planning. I may have to look at the piece of paper. I want to give two different words, one being interested and one being interesting. Now, I'm up here being the performer that I am, trying to become interesting. If I sang, you probably wouldn't think I'm so interesting, but I would. Because I'm such a wonderful singer, and you guys say, yeah, big deal. Okay. There's not a shared reality there, is there? That reality is shrunk. You don't want to hear me sing, do you? Yeah, you don't. Okay. Well, Ashley does. Well, thank you. When we're trying to get along with others, what's more important, interested or interesting? Interested. Why? You're interested in the other person. If I'm trying to be interesting and try to do all this performing stuff like that, okay, I'm trying to give you a shared reality by talking about Krispy Kreme donuts, which you can all relate to. When I'm lecturing and when I'm talking, that's what you like, and so I created some audience participation, if you will. But when it comes to being interested, it far beats interesting. In other words, I'm trying to be interesting, then essentially the person's saying, well, that's very nice, but what does that have to do with me? And you see, in a practice, it's all about the patient, isn't it? In fact, even in life, it's all about the other person we're communicating with. We've had a situation, and we've talked about this in staff meetings before, where we are talking with each other. So we've got doctor, staff member talking about something that occurred with them over the weekend, let's say, and the patient is sitting there in the chair. Well, they may be interested in each other, doctor, staff member may be interested in each other to share that reality, but what's the patient thinking? Why aren't you interested in me? How come there's no interest going there? And so if we look at that ARC triangle, there may be communication going on between the two of you, and perhaps that triangle is even getting bigger between the two of you. But how's that ARC triangle developing between the two of you, if it's two staff members or doctor and staff member, and the patient? That's shrinking, and that's shrinking, and that's shrinking. And the patient's saying, what about me? What about me? What about me? Why aren't you interested in me? It can be very, very subtle. You might think you're being as entertaining as you possibly can. And it's not that I've seen an incident like that here, but I'm just trying to give you an example because it does occur. It does occur. So that the ARC triangle will actually build if, in fact, you are interested in the patient. And therefore, you're raising that ARC between you and the patient. Now, you're going to see something in this practice or in life that you're going to say, all right, I see that, but let me see if I can define it a little bit better, and that's tone level. You've all heard of tone scale. We've talked about tone scale a number of times here. So let's talk about basic tone levels. Okay, and I'll just cover a few. There are going to be tone levels in between. All right, at 4.0, we've got enthusiasm. Okay, wow, this is really great. It's fantastic. Okay, that sounds enthusiastic. But unless I'm interested in you, it doesn't make any difference. So enthusiasm has very much to do with a flow out to everybody where everybody says, oh, gee, I want to be part of her because, wow, she just enjoys life. So it's a big flow out of an emotion that everybody wants to participate in. Below that is conservatism. And in conservatism, there's still some interest going on, but there's much more of a reserved type of interest. Has to do very much with formal talk. It could be that I don't want to really go out there because I think it's something that it's important, but not that important. I can't do this. I can only do this. Now, if you were with somebody and you're trying to share experiences, oh boy, I went to the park, I saw the meerkats, and oh, aren't the meerkats really interesting? And they look like prairie dogs. I remember seeing prairie dogs when we lived in Oklahoma, and blah blah blah. Okay, that goes up, and that's enthusiastic. Oh well, I see meerkats. The meerkats themselves are they're not really cats. They're not really meers either. They're meerkats, and you get the idea. So at 2.0. You've got antagonism. Where's the flow of communication in antagonism? You did this, 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 you did this. Is there anything going out there? No. It's equal going back and forth. Do we see antagonism in this office? Do we see antagonism among us sometimes? Do we see antagonism with a disgruntled patient? Okay. Now below that is anger, and that 1.5 is anger, by the way. Okay. Joy.
The patient we had yesterday, you and I in room 1.
Yeah.
Was she antagonism or anger?
The one you talking about, the one from New Jersey? I've got some people from New Jersey watching this lecture right now.
I didn't say that.
And of course, Joy said it's a typical New Jersey. I'd say she was an antagonism, wouldn't you? Yeah, she was antagonistic, yeah. Well, she'd had a bunch of bad experiences. And frankly, with the experiences that she'd had, all right, am I going to go through the same kind of that I'm going through with the other office? Yeah, until she found out that I was totally in agreement with her and everything that was right was okay, and notice it went right back up. It didn't go up to enthusiasm, but she was out of antagonism. As a matter of fact, what happened was the patient had a problem with a single implant, not that we did. It was an implant that had been done. The moment the implant was done, it had started failing. The doctor went in and did a bone graft around a failing implant. And now it's a year later, and she's having itching and...
She wanted to rip it out of her head.
She wanted to rip it out of her head. And so as soon as she said that, I said, well, there's a rule that we have here. When an implant goes in, if the patient has pain right away, we take the implant out. Because you're absolutely right, it's never going to work. And all of a sudden she says, oh, sigh of relief. Now, what Joyce said to her was even more interesting, I think. Because she said, I only want him to look at this. And was a bit on the antagonistic side. And then why don't you relate what happened, Joy?
She came in and I started taking her FMX, and she got really, really rude and defensive and said, stop taking x-rays. I don't want any more x-rays. I just want this one tooth looked at. And I could tell I was losing her a little bit. So I sat her up and talked to her and just said, listen, I want to make sure we're the right fit for you. And I let her explain what happened, and then I said, in order for us to really, it's an injustice to you if we don't take any x-rays. We have to take a look at everything while you're here. And, but I brought her back down, and she agreed. And she let us move forward, and she paid yesterday, like 2 months before her appointment or something like that.
Okay. She
So,
paid.
she paid.
So she was antagonistic, and an
And
hour later
she-
she's paying how much money?
First step in treatment. Or no, actually, no, she paid like $4,000, I think.
$4,000.
Yeah.
Okay, antagonistic for $4,000. Tell me how often, very good, Joy, thank you. How often will you be antagonistic with somebody and within an hour pay $4,000 that person you're antagonistic with? That's quite a tool. Joy took that course, okay? And Joy has that ability. We all have that ability to take somebody's antagonist and raise them up above the antagonism in order to be able to get them to the point where they can help themselves. And that's what we're doing here. Now, below that is fear. And how many people walk in here in fear? Like most everybody? As a matter of fact, in fear, what happens in fear with regard to that communication flow? Is that person flowing a lot out to you? that person is sucking the life out of you. If you want to get an idea as to where the person's tone level is, because we should be able to identify everybody's tone level, or at least take a guess, it might be how much they suck the life out of you, or how much they build up your life, build you up. And the idea when somebody is in fear, by the way, 0 is death, okay? We hope nobody's walking in here dead. If they do, I don't think you're going to be able to get them back up here, okay? If they have just a little bit of life in them, then we'll get them back up here, okay? But when you're looking at somebody, you're saying, how much do I want to be with that person? We go back to the ARC triangle. How much affinity can I possibly have? And we put some reality points in. Okay, we shared experiences. Oh, you're from Massachusetts, what part? Which is a typical thing I'll do. Okay, and then all of a sudden the affinity goes up, and it's all communication, and all of that will raise the tone scale. So if you identify, if they're already enthusiasm, is there something to raise? Well, you might want to get some reality points in. Well, this is the reason we save teeth, and here's why we're going to do an oral DNA test, and here's why it's going to be done, all that kind of stuff. You're going to give them information, but they're already enthusiastic to be here. But if they're in fear, they won't even listen to you. They can't listen to you. Have you ever been fearful of something? Okay, did somebody, when you were fearful of something, want to tell you about how fantastic their date was on Saturday night? I mean, I don't care. I'm scared to death of whatever's going to occur. And so we got to get them out of here and get them back up, at least above antagonism, in order to be able to get to the point where they can communicate and they can communicate well. Make sense? Yes. Okay, good. What did I miss? Yeah. Part of all of this is granting the person the right to be here. Granting the person the right to exist. What does that mean? Let's assume that a patient, or one of you, has a reality point that may not match yours, okay? So let's assume that somebody has an opinion. If you say that opinion is wrong, or the way you live your life is wrong, I mean, if you're a criminal, it's something else, then what does that do to the ARC triangle? Obviously, it shrinks it. Part of getting along with others is granting that person's viewpoint first. Okay? Person has a certain viewpoint about a certain issue, or perhaps about what's going on in other dental offices, or even our dental office. Grant them that right to have that opinion first. Oh, and how do you do that? You acknowledge what the person's saying. I got it. You don't necessarily agree with it. You say, I got it. Thanks for sharing that. Is there anything more you want to share? And let them get it all out. Once they've gotten it all out and you've acknowledged it, it's then, and I'll say only then, that they may be willing to listen to your viewpoint, and maybe they'll grant to you some beingness too. That they'll grant what you've said, and they'll say, okay, I got that. And then it can build and build and build. If you invalidate or if you deny everything that somebody says, it's not going to go anywhere. So we grant them the opportunity to express their opinion first, give them that ability, and then you can raise it up. You all have that ability. Everybody here does that, and does that quite well. You probably don't know that you're doing that. You do it innately. If you want to look at one of the best examples I've ever seen, Daniel does that all the time. So I think that's it. Any questions, any comments, anything that you want to share? No? Good. Thank you.
Okay, so that is the that's something the assignment. It is almost 8:30 for those who are on live. Many of you are going to be watching this delayed. So check at 8:30 Eastern on Wednesday night, and you'll have received the link to the questionnaire. And the questionnaire is the whole thing. You want to make sure you get it and make sure your staff gets it. So make sure that everybody's watches and fills out the questionnaire right away. There'll be a link to upload it, an automatic link to upload it. But if for some reason that's not working, just print it out, scan it, whatever you need to do, send it to me at lee@directorofdentistry.com. And I'll take care of it and I'll get it over to Danielle. Danielle's going to be looking at these on Friday mornings. So if you take care of it right now, if you're watching live, then of course you can get it all taken care of. Danielle will correct it tomorrow and you'll have instant feedback. Otherwise, if there's going to be a delay, you'll receive it the following Friday. Okay. Good luck on the assignment. The assignment is going to work very well. And the more of your staff that you get involved in this lecture, the more you'll see how staff is going to change just a little bit incrementally. And you'll find the team building will be that much better. Okay. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining us.